having lives. I think there's a few people having lives, so don't know if there's anybody in the chat. I don't know if there's. I posted about it on my Instagram, right? YouTube, I mean.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe there's people watching. Maybe people will come later. So doesn't matter. I'm going to keep it up anyway. I know I can see there's nobody's watching us. It doesn't matter. We'll just chat between us.
People can watch it later.
Yeah. So, well, for people that are going to watch this in retrospect, I'm here with Jana Roller, or also known as Yeskill. We're both reaction channels, commentary channels, and oh no, look, the chat just come through. Hello, friends. And it's just like we just thought we were on our own here. We're like, nobody loves us.
We're all by ourselves in the corner of YouTube.
We're just gonna rock it all anyway, though. Doesn't matter. Hey guys, nice to see you all. So Jana, she's like me. She's also a personal trainer. She's also had issues with food. Not like me. Well, I suppose she has had form of eating disorder. You were binge eating, correct? Is that right to say? She's lost a lot of weight, competed. Sorry, go on.
Yep. Oh no, I was like, I always get so confused with these. I'm like, am I supposed to talk yet?
Yeah, go.
So I have dealt with binge eating since about the age of 5 years old to deal with some emotional childhood trauma. That's kind of how my entryway into disordered eating started. And then as I got into like mid-age, from the age of 12, I went on my first diet and I started binging and restricting. So I never really threw up food. I wasn't anorexic to the point where I was like, the longest I had gone was like a week and then I would binge. So my thing was more of the binging and restricting. I never went past that point to where I just stayed more on the anorexic end.
The chat can't hear you, so I think.
Struggled. It's hard to hear me.
Oh, is it better?
My volume is low. Oh no. Okay, hold on. Try and fix it. The chat. Oh no.
I can hear you fine, but I guess I'm listening with headphones. Maybe people are listening live without.
Turn up the volume. I don't know how.
Maybe like talking to your microphone. Just hold it closer to your mouth.
Guys, I don't know why it's.
Oh, did you just freeze? Did she freeze for you guys? Because she froze for me. Or is it me that froze? Me with my great internet. Hold on. Let me... Oh no, it's her. Sorry.
Is it back?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you fine, but I think I have headphones. I think if people are struggling, try and maybe hold your microphone closer to your mouth. Maybe that will help.
It could be like a really shitty pair of headphones. That could be why.
Yeah. I can hear you better now, though, when you move it closer.
I'm going to move it like this.
Okay. Yeah. Is that better?
Crap.
All right, I think
it's okay.
we'll just keep rocking it. We're gonna have to we're gonna have to try and work with it. Sorry guys, if you haven't got headphones.
Hold on.
So you would
just try something else.
Okay. So whilst Jana is getting set up, what I'll do is I'll kind of talk about what we're gonna go through. So basically, what we're going to do in this live is we're just going to talk about weight loss and metabolism. Jana refers to, she told me about this study that was really interesting about the more you diet, the harder it is, because she'll be able to tell you more, but it's basically a study they did over a prolonged period of time with lots of obese people. And basically, once you've dieted down, the fat cells will always exist. So then that's why it's easier to gain weight again. And we just want to talk about things to consider when you're dieting. Oh, yeah, I'll just keep on talking. Things that you have to consider whilst dieting. We'll talk about starvation mode, which isn't a thing. We'll talk about metabolic adaptation. metabolic damage, which isn't, it isn't quite a thing either. I just learned, but I think Jana knows a bit more about it. You found another way to talk, Jana? Because I'm just filling time right now. Oh my God, you're all loud. That's
Okay.
better for me.
Sorry, there might be a little bit of feedback because I just took the headphones out of the jack and I'm just going on my laptop's webcam and audio. So hopefully that's not too bad, and hopefully you guys aren't getting too much feedback from it.
I don't get any. I think you sound much louder to me. Could the chat please confirm if this is better? And then we'll just get on with it. Welcome to the Ilona live stream. It always goes great in the beginning. That's all right. I always mess things up.
Okay. It looks like it sounds a little bit better.
I'll turn my volume down a little bit. I am really loud anyway, though. Volume has always been my problem. All right. So, where do you want to start? Do you want
to? I think. Probably talking about metabolic adaptation is.
I can't hear you now.
Oh.
Oh my God, this is a nightmare, isn't it?
No.
I don't know why. Hold on. Just keep talking. I'll be back when I can hear you again.
If everybody in the chat just let me know if you can still hear me. So a lot of misconceptions, something that even I felt when I was learning about weight loss.
I'm back.
In the beginning, before I coach and learn how to do things properly, was I told myself I just couldn't lose weight or anything like that. And a big part of it is metabolic adaptation. A lot of the times we see results and we see them come faster and we're like, great. And we get so excited about when the results come and then all of a sudden it plateaus. And a lot of people think, oh, well, that's just it. I can't lose any more weight. That's not true. That's when your metabolism will adapt. So our bodies are extremely smart and we have these mechanisms to do with our metabolism, with how our body processes food and our survival mechanisms, just natural survival behaviors and habits. So when our body starts to lose body fat, it kind of goes into a little bit of, it's stressful. To lose weight is stressful on our body. And it doesn't want to lose a bunch of weight, especially if your set point is higher. So for me, my set point is naturally always around 180 and 190 pounds. So my body really plateaus, it sticks at that point. And a lot of people get discouraged and think, oh, I can't lose weight because this is just it. But your metabolism is adapted to that. And you have to work harder. You have to diet harder. You have to restrict your calories a little bit more to get past there. But then you also can use other methods of tricking your body, such as refeeds and diet breaks and things like that. So your metabolism will adapt to what you're doing. If you're a morbidly obese person, you're going to see results faster, and you can also diet on, less restrictive calories than somebody like me who's been dieting for 5 years off and on. I have to get quite restrictive with my calories because I'm fighting against my set point. But my body is also learned that this is a cycle that I do. So that is why people that are constantly yo-yo dieting have such a problem losing the weight and keeping it off, is because their metabolism has adapted to that cycle. Your body knows what's coming.
It's really interesting you say that, especially around set point, because since my sort of adult years, I've always weighed around 80 kilos, and I've been 80 kilos chunky-ish, and I sit a few kilos. I'm around 76 I was yesterday morning. So I'm was it 8 pounds on the 70 kilos. I don't do pounds very well. Doesn't matter. My point is that I sit around 80 kilos naturally, even muscular and not muscular. But what I have noticed, and with dieting as well, is the first, because I've dieted quite a few times for shows, is that the first time I dieted when I did a show and I came in really lean, I had to diet for 20 weeks, which is fine. I knew that is what I was committing to. And it was a lot harder to lose the weight. But every time since then that I've dieted, I'm getting results a lot quicker. And now it's almost like obviously the more muscle mass you have, the faster your metabolism too. So if you want to have a quicker metabolism, one thing you can do is build muscle, but that's not easy either. It's probably even harder to build muscle than it is to lose weight, right? Because it's even more strenuous. But I find that every time I diet now, it's like, so I've been doing, since that 1500 calorie thing that I did a few weeks ago, I've continued on my cut, and whilst my weight is not changing too much. I mean, I had my period coming up and stuff like that as well. Not taking into consideration so much because that happens, hormones. But you can see my body composition is changing, and I can see it myself. So the more you diet down, I think this is more for prep people and when you're leaner. But I think if you were to do a show again now, or you were to do a prep diet, you'll probably find that to get to your stage weight, you'll probably get there quicker, and you hit the next plateau. Because that's, for me, every time I've competed, I've come in leaner. The first time, how lean I was, I wouldn't be like, I can't even imagine how lean I was now the last time I competed to the first time I competed. Last time I had almost striations not striations, but I had lines running through my glutes and feathering starting to come in my quads. And like next, if I were to do it again, I'd come in even leaner, because like you say, the body, it kind of recognizes what it's doing. So it works in the other way around too. But the key is to do the reverse diet and to be good in your off season. Sorry guys, we're not looking at the chat too much. We'll do the chat in a bit. Just wanted to let you know. But
yeah, no, and that's totally too. And I think that's there's a bit of a difference too between like me coming from like being morbidly obese and then also doing competing, like not competing or competing, Jesus, competing, like how you compete. For me, when it comes to dieting, yo-yo dieting and competition dieting to me are very different. Yo-yo dieting, I feel like are people that are not, or I feel like yo-yo dieting is when people are misinformed and they're just trying whatever fad there is out there and it's not being done properly. So they're either getting really restrictive and then all of a sudden dropping, coming off of it and going back to binge eating or just eating unhealthy in general. And then they kind of like repeat that cycle over and over again, looking for the magic, looking for the thing that's going to work. Whereas bodybuilding is very, very controlled. It is very science-based. It's precise. It is a series of steps that you need to take. But what people don't understand is that dieting for weight loss and dieting for show are really not different. It's just how restrictive you get depending on your body and how much weight you have to lose to get to your show or whatnot. You're still taking the same steps. Like you're starting at a higher amount of calories, you're working your way down, you're increasing your exercise as you go. And then the same thing in bodybuilding, you hit a plateau, a set point, you either reverse it or you pull back a little bit to let your metabolism recover, or if you still have lots of room to move down, you hit it a little bit harder. You go a little bit deeper until you feel like you need that break. So bodybuilding goes pretty extreme, but weight loss is really no different. You need to take the same steps. And just the amount of food that you're eating, like somebody who's dieting for lifestyle is going to be taking the same steps as somebody who's dieting for a show. You're just not going to be as extremely restrictive, and you have a longer time frame to complete your weight loss. You're not doing it in 12 weeks, 6 weeks, 20 weeks. You've got a year, got 2 years, 5 years to do it. So there's lots of room to take a break when your metabolism needs it. Whereas a show, you have a very short temporary period of time and you're hitting it hard. You're still doing the same thing. You're just being a little bit more extreme about it. That's all.
Some people are talking about reverse diets. So basically, in competition prep, ideally what you do is you start off on as high calories as possible with as little cardio as possible. And then what you do over time, every time you hit a plateau or a metabolic adaptation, what you do is, what I normally do is I either play around with my macros, unless I go full keto. Obviously I can't really because I don't eat carbs. But normally what people do is you start as high as possible. You hit a little plateau. You might tweak the carbs and the carbs and the other macro ratios just a little bit, because sometimes the macros can make a difference. If that's not working and you're already doing your cardio, you shave back your calories a little bit. You increase your cardio a little bit. If you're ever going with a coach and they just whack you on 1,200 calories with hours of cardio, very unhealthy. That should be like, I'm not saying, I don't think cardio is bad. I think if you want to do, I do cardio all the time, even in my off season. I think it's very beneficial to the body, but you have to taper it down slowly. But because what you're doing, you start off as high as possible and you go as low as you should go, as low as you can. I mean, it differs for everybody. I've never gone lower than 1,600 calories in a prep. In my last prep, I didn't go lower than 2,000. So that's still a lot of food, but then I'm pretty big. So I'm not like a petite 5'1" female that weighs like, I don't know, like 100 pounds, you know? So it's different. Mm-hmm. But basically what happens is once you've competed or you've done your show or you've dieted for a long period of time, doesn't really matter. You're used to eating, say, those 2,000 calories and doing, say, an hour of cardio at high intensity every single day. Now, if you then suddenly stop that and you just eat normal and you don't count your calories and you stop all of your cardio, what's going to happen is you're just going to gain a lot of fat really rapidly. So the principles of reverse dieting is this: the way you taper it down slowly is the way you taper it up slowly. So you keep doing your cardio, you just take it out little by little every week. You increase your calories, and you don't know what that's going to be. Sometimes you can increase quite rapidly and not gain too much body fat. It depends on the person. Sometimes you have to be on, say, from 2,000 to 2,200 calories for a month before you can increase again. Sometimes that's 2 weeks, and you just have to play that by ear. It does vary, but that's the principles of reverse dieting: is that you slowly go into a diet and you slowly come out of it. I think it's better for the metabolism, because I'm pretty sure that doing the quick reverse like that can be damaging, right? No?
Well, it depends on the person, right? So I've seen studies, quick reverse and a longer reverse really depends on the individual and what they're willing to be comfortable with. So for me, my body, even when I'm like, I'll use myself for an example here. So the last show that I did in October, when I came back and reverse dieted, my body was striving so hard to get back to my natural set point, and my hunger levels were absolutely insane, like worse than when I was dieting, and especially like after having that. It's mental. It's
because you've been dieting for so long that you were like, oh no, I don't. Because I find it, if I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's just, I think, interesting to talk about the mental side of it, because when I'm in prep, like, food and hunger is, I don't question it. But now when I'm cutting for myself for summer, I'm goal, like, right? Oh, that's right.
Well, when you have a goal, like, when you think about stepping on stage, like for me, when I was prepping for the transformation challenge or category, it was like, I'm going to be on stage in front of lots of people, and I'm also documenting my journey online. So I better show up and I better be doing the damn thing, and I want to look amazing that day up, right? Like it really all comes down to weeks and weeks and weeks of hard work just for a few hours to feel good, right? And well, sometimes you feel good, but you also feel like shit because you've been dieting. But, you have that goal. You're so laser focused on something, and then when you're reverse dieting, it's like some people can hang on to that focus and go, okay, what's next? And they can keep themselves into it. For me, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this show. Wasn't expecting to get invited to go to Worlds. And so that I played back and forth going like, am I going to compete again next year? Am I going to go to the Bahamas and show up and compete for the Worlds competition? Or what am I doing? And then I started a new job. And then like Christmas, this and this and this and coronavirus. So for me, like trying to get my head back into it, like now it's too late for me to even prep for that. But now I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this for myself. And it's mentally, because I am one of those people that I need a goal that is so big that you become emotionally attached. That's what it is. It's the emotional attachment to your goal and to your transformation. So like in the beginning for me, before competing was even a thing, it was, I need to lose weight to get healthy because I'm dying. Like I can't breathe when I walk. My son almost died because I couldn't catch him because I was too obese and he almost got hit by a car. Like that was my emotional attachment. So whether you're dieting, you need emotional attachment. Whether you're reverse dieting, you need an emotional attachment as well. You just have to find what that is. And so now that I've gone through all of my after show stress, got used to the job, my schedule, I'm back at the gym. Even when I wasn't at the gym, I was still keeping up. But now I'm like, okay, I'm doing this for me. So that's your why, your emotional attachment. And it's that way with reverse dieting too. Like you have to know why you're doing it. And for some people, that's really hard because you're fighting against your body telling you it's hungry and you want to eat and you just want to like all the food. So you have to remind yourself like why you need to take it, so why you have to do it, one little step at a time, because you don't want to wreck all that hard work that you just put in, months of training, right?
So I've been there as well, especially when I was new to competing, where I just had a week of, calories don't count. Calories always count. Even if you've dieted for a long time. And honestly, people, this is one thing, I say it a lot, and prep is hard. Prep, I don't recommend it to people. You have to be quite strong mentally. Probably a weird thing for me to do as somebody who has suffered eating disorders, but for some reason it's worked for me. Initially, I did have a little bit of a slip up, but it has been about 5 years since it's been like fine, no problems whatsoever. But what I find is the prep is hard, and it sucks to be hungry, and it sucks to be tired, and all of that is hard. But there's nothing harder than having worked for several weeks, months, going through just being a very selfish person, because that's what you are when you're prepping. Your life revolves around training and eating, and if it doesn't, you shouldn't compete. And that's a horrible thing to say, but balancing everything, I did it, but it was absolutely not easy. But the hardest thing is when you've done all that work and then you have a week of calories don't count, it's my birthday, it's the weekend, whatever, and you undo all of your hard work and you go from the best you've ever looked to just being normal again. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being normal, but if you look, I like looking shredded. I will never deny it. I like looking freaky. I like myself the best when I have veins running all over my body. And I know most people think that's disgusting, but I love it. I just absolutely love that freaky aesthetic. Yeah. And to look like that and to just eat and just blow up quickly and undo all the work, that is very hard to deal with. And that is the reason what triggered my eating disorder again the first time around, is because I just went crazy, ate everything, and then we're like, what have I done? And then since then, I've been like, you know what? I can't do this to myself. I like looking a certain way. I don't mind being not super shredded. I quite like the way that I look now. It's fine. But doing it slowly and increasing the calories and just having a treat here and there, but being mindful, it's more important, because yes, it might suck at the time, but being mentally happier is more important than just eating all the food. Because for me, like the guilt that came with it and it triggering like again my eating disorder, that it just isn't worth it. Like I'd rather just be hungry and up my calories again. But I think people need to, that's something you have to figure out for yourself,
Yeah. And a lot of people discount, like, they think that just because something is hard is that it's bad. The mental growth.
You talking about Abby Sharp here?
Maybe. I was like so fired up in your review. I was like, oh, there's so much that she's missing.
Dieting is evil.
Yes, no, and I think we do need to release that word diet. Like, I hate it when people post like diet is bad because it has the word die in it. It's like, no, you don't. Like, yeah, this is really funny. I haven't posted it yet. I was gonna post it, but I work at a vet clinic during the day, and we have like a whole thing on obesity in dogs. A whole thing really? About obesity in dogs. And I'm not comparing people to dogs, but I'm like, so if it's important for you to care about your animal's health, why is it not important for you to care of your own? Diet is just what you're eating at the time. This is your diet at the moment. Nobody goes like to a zoo and sees a tiger eating something and being like, oh my God, that's a bad diet. Like, nobody does that. Like, why is it that way for us? Anyways, before I rant. Oh man, now I totally forgot what I was going to talk about. Hold on. Where was I going with this? Well. Oh, yes. The mental personal development that you will gain going through something that is so challenging for you is also very important. And a lot of these people that are in like the fat acceptance movement and that are hand-holding people in obesity, they're missing this point, is that challenging yourself is not a bad thing. And we should be challenging ourselves to gain personal development, because there are going to be much harder things to go through in life than just dieting down or losing weight. However, it is such a mental battle when it comes to yourself and your self-worth. And a lot of people think that, you know, dieting is going to cause them to have a bad self-body image. But really, that was one of the things that made me feel so powerful and so empowered and in love with my body, was going in and training, lifting heavy weights, like looking at somebody next to me, and you know, if they're lifting heavy and I'm like, oh, I want to lift like that, and feeling your body move and strength and seeing your strength increase, and then, you know, you start to feel good, your body gets on board, you can breathe better, you're able to move better, your sex drive goes up, and that's a fucking plus, and you feel better about your body, and you do, and you're
raises.
Yeah, you know.
But that's so true. Like that's why I recommend that women, not just women, but in particular women, because I think there is. I'm not one for necessarily for like societal norms and all that, but obviously stuff like that does exist, and people do assume we're weak, and I think we assume we're weak, and like we're being empowered to be encouraged to be powerful in the workforce, which is great. Like I've always gone after what I want to do. I've educated myself and work hard, so I think it's great that we have those opportunities. But I think if we realize that we can be physically strong as well, it's one of the most empowering things you'll ever have, to know you have physical strength. And you know, it's always nice to have a man that's strong and to take care of you. Don't get me wrong. I like my man. Like I'm a little girl next to him, and I love that. But I also like the fact that I am physically strong and able to take care of myself. And you don't understand that feeling until you do either a martial art or you do something like weight training, and you're testing yourself and you're hurting and you're pushing your limits, and it's a physical battle, it's a mental battle. And weight training, a lot of it is a mental battle. I was stuck on benching 60 kilos for so long, and then one day I did it, and like now my 1 rep max is like 95 kilos. That's like 220 pounds, I think, something like that. So you know. Yeah. It's almost 220 pounds, 1 rep though, but still, it's like that's more than most women can do. You know, it's more than most people can squat. But the thing is, like right. I was mentally on like 60 kilos for years, like a solid 2 years of training. I was always strong. I've been a very strong person, but there's some weight I was just stuck on, and you overcome it. So there is just, I don't know, there is being physically strong, and I think also, once you make the decision to start weight training as a female and you become muscular, you already destroy like social norms anyway, because most women aren't muscular. You are not what society wants you to be. Not that matters. Like I don't really care about this. I think you should just be you. Everybody should just be themselves, and people will accept them for who they are. And if people don't accept you, that's fine as well. Like it's really not a big problem. We're all individuals. There's going to be people out there that like you anyway. But once you make that decision to lift, your worries and concerns about others' opinions of you, they vanish, because you already know you're different.
And you know, like it was one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn was like one of my first times in the gym, I had my husband drop me off because I was too big to walk. It was the middle of winter. Where am I going to go? Right? Too embarrassed to like just go in and sit down. So I had to do something. So when I walked in, I had this idea in my head that everybody was just going to look at me, that all the heads were going to turn, and people were going to like start saying all these things like, oh my God, look at this fat chick, she's coming to the gym. Like you create this drama in your head of things that you think that might happen. The biggest lesson that I learned is that nobody gives a fuck that you're there, and nobody cares about you and how you look as much as you do. So we create this idea in our head, like we need to fit this mold because that's what we were told. But we are feeding into that idea that other people care. And naturally they don't. Like people, I'm not saying that there aren't standards out there, that there aren't like these, you know, stereotypes and things like that. There is. But to be honest, if it comes to females, we're the ones that are talking mostly about these stereotypes and these stereotypes that we created. And when we break those stereotypes, it's freeing because you finally see the bigger picture that it was never really a thing in the first place, but we created that thing because fear, because of every self-conscious idea that you've had about yourself. You are looking for things to project those fears. And that's when you start seeing all the stuff about body image, and you start seeing like ads in papers and stuff like that. You're hyper focusing on this, on your fears through outside resources. And that's what makes us just go crazy with wanting to fit these certain molds. And outside of that, you're just like, why was I doing this to myself? Like, I would have been a much happier person not giving a fuck about what people think about me a long time ago, and just done what I wanted to do. And that was just one of the biggest things I had to learn, was especially being online, is people are going to have opinions no matter what. You're never going to make people happy. You are always going to upset somebody, but that's not your problem. That's their problem. How they react, like, obviously don't say really bad things, because that's not nice, but you know, don't be an asshole. But people are going to react to you. People are going to have an opinion of you. It's up to you what you do with that opinion, right? Like, you can brush it off. Like, I wouldn't have gotten into the best shape of my life if I would have listened to those dudes from RX Muscle who called me down so hard. That I used that to fire me up. So you choose what you do with what people think about you.
Yeah, and it's sad that you've had an experience like that, because maybe it's because of, I mostly train in like hardcore gyms. Like, there's a difference. You have a fitness gym and you have the hardcore gyms, and people are always afraid of the hardcore gyms, but actually they're usually what I find the nicer environments, because usually all of these big guys you see, they've all been really insecure themselves, and that's the reason they started changing their body. You train in there and people will just help and support you, and you know, you ask questions and people are, I find, really supportive. I find in fitness gyms it's more, you get like, I don't know, it's like people don't always know what they're doing, and then you might get people more likely to stare and stuff. But from my experience, it's more people will look at you in the gym if you're doing something and you're not doing the right exercise. So they might look at that and go, what the hell are they doing? Like, you know, when you see the gym fails, like that sort of stuff. But I this is just my experience. So obviously I can't talk for other people, but I don't generally speaking see people getting mocked for training when they're overweight, because it's like, actually, if you're in the gym, you're actively trying to change them. So why would you discourage them from doing something good? But I imagine you always have like young, dumb kids that are just stupid and insensitive. But in general, I don't experience that. But
no, I think I had one person say something once to me, and I got right up in their face and was like, "I'll fight you. Let's go outside right now." Like,
I don't really like.
And I guess.
Go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, I guess that's just being raised by boys. Like, I've always, you know, like with my brothers and my dad, like, I've always learned to stick up for myself. So for me, it's like once I've learned how to feel good and powerful about myself, and then if somebody said something to me, I had the confidence to know that, like, I'm here and I'm working hard. And people are gonna see, you know, a morbidly obese person in the gym, like, if they're working hard, they're there to change their lives. Why discourage that? Like, and even somebody who's anorexic looking to gain weight.
Yeah,
maybe it's a mom who's trying to lose baby weight so that she can feel good about herself and, you know, fit into some clothes that made her feel really, really good. Like, anybody who goes into the gym or goes to a fitness center or whichever is there to change something about their life, and they're there to change how they feel about themselves. And we're all there working towards that same goal. So the best thing that we can do in the gyms, in fitness centers, and even online with each other is to support that change for a healthier, more confident, empowered lifestyle, not just to lose weight to fit a stereotype or whatever else.
Yeah, I think that's also really important. Just to go back to weight loss and the fact that you say lifestyle, it's like, this is the thing. What amazes me with like little weight loss channels is, first of all, they'll try everything except for eating less and eating healthy, which I don't know why, because that's literally the easiest option. Don't try any crazy diets. Don't try any crazy plans, any pills, any juices. Don't do that. Just eat less and eat whole foods. It's quite difficult to overeat in whole foods. I'm not saying it's impossible, because it isn't impossible. You can. But how much chicken and broccoli can you really eat before you get sick of it, right? It's just not as palatable, even if you season it nicely. And it does have to become a lifestyle. So which is, I know it's probably difficult because you're addicted to eating certain foods. You want that trigger from the dopamine, but that's why maybe combining the change from having an eating disorder where you're overeating, or maybe even where you're like anorexic, because there is still, like when you have eating disorders, you still get like being hungry and stuff like that. It still gives you, I don't know if it gives you an endorphin release, but it still does something to you mentally. So, we've got super chat. Thank you, Sharon. So what we'll do is, so what you should do is try and replace that feeling that you're seeking, either the high from the food or from the prolonged starvation or whatever it may be, is do something like weight training or running or any sports. I think sports in general is just such a good thing for your mental well-being. That this is the thing that I've generally found really hard with the quarantine until we recently got some weight, is that I could feel it was, as somebody who's an active person that trains a lot, it's like, yes, I can go for walks, but there is just something about the rush of weight training. If you don't get that, it does affect you mentally, and it's you know, I just really hope we can go back to the gym soon.
I know. I'm so sorry. I think of you every morning when I'm there. Oh. But I literally did when they reopened our gyms, and the first morning I went, I don't think I ever got up and was like so awake and so ready to go. And after I was done my workout, I had literally a high. I was so happy that day, the rest of my day, and I realized how important that gym atmosphere is for me. Not only because it's, you know, you're exercising, but it's time for me that I take out of my day to better myself, to make my body strong, to make me healthy. It's that reminder of I will not go back to that place where I was 310 pounds and couldn't breathe and pre-diabetic and could barely walk properly without being in severe pain. Like, I refuse to go back there. And so going to the gym is just such a high for me, because once you've been in that place of feeling so terrible in your own body, like you literally feel like you're trapped, to feeling free is amazing. And that's like what I get really frustrated with these weight loss channels, is because I've been there. I know where they are. I've done that cycle, and I'm now on the other side. And that's all I want for them, is that freedom. Like, you don't know how amazing it is to be able to look at a flight of stairs and go, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Or if I want to play outside with my son, I know that I can run with him and not have to worry about whether or not my back is going to give out, or if I'm going to be able to breathe. Like, it's such a freeing feeling that you get from health. And it's not just weight loss, it's health. It's eating healthy, it's fueling your body, it's exercising, and having that mental time out for yourself, that healthy distraction. And that's what a lot of people need. And a lot of people don't understand the connection with food addiction and binge eating disorders, is that it's filling something that you're missing. So what you have to do is you have to fill that disorder or that addiction with something else that's healthy, a healthy distraction, like exercise, drawing, reading, going for a walk, anything that is going to be positive in your life rather than negative. But it takes massive self-awareness. It takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight, on learning your triggers, learning your trigger foods, learning your trigger situation, being self-aware enough to put your new habit in place. So catching yourself and then following through with what you've chosen to do instead of eating, or instead of whatever it is that is negative in your life. So that's a big piece too. And the gym is such a good way to add that in, to be a healthy distraction. Go work on yourself. Go feel better. You feel fat? Fine. The gym. Make yourself feel better about yourself. If you feel your joints hurt, go do some yoga. Like, there's a solution for everything. You just got to be willing to do it or find it.
I think it's difficult though, because if you've never had, so were you always overweight, or did you were kind of normal size and then you became overweight? Because I think if you've always been overweight, especially like morbidly obese from the age of a young boy or a young girl, I think to be healthy, or what you think is healthy even, is probably not even healthy, but to be in that position of thinking of a life where you're not in pain, mentally or physically, it must be like, I don't know if people can actually imagine that if you've suffered from like extreme like bad obesity your whole life. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's like I think maybe that's the reason why some people just don't succeed or they don't try hard enough. It's because I don't think they understand how great life can be without just the constant physical and mental pain, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because that's exactly how it was with me. Like, they don't know it can be better. Like, you think that like this is it, this is my life, right? For me, I was always an overweight kid. I in high school, because of my dieting, I was about maybe a little bit bigger than I am now. So, but in my head, I was like, oh, I was morbidly obese. My actual like obesity started after high school, because I played rugby when I was in high school. I was horseback riding. Nice. I was doing all sorts of stuff. So I was always active in sports, like even when I was younger. And I think I would have played a lot more sports if I wasn't bullied so bad. Like for my whole entire school year, I think I had maybe like 1 or 2 friends, and the rest of my school years from kindergarten to grade 12 was being picked on, was being bullied, was people making comments, slipping notes in my lockers, things like that, like constantly being made fun of. And yet I still played sports. I still wanted to do things, because I've always had that need to be that way. But I have taught myself like a lot of mental things. Like I could go on forever, all the shit I used to say to myself. But my obesity really kicked into gear. Like I was overweight and heavy through high school. I wasn't as heavy just because I was binging and restricting so bad. After high school, it was like, now what? I came out of high school, I didn't have an idea. So I started drinking, I started doing drugs, I started partying, and I just kind of just ate, and because I was depressed. Then things just ballooned. I lost my first child. Like there was just stuff, just a lot of stuff. And so by the time that I was 25, I was 310 pounds. So from 18 to 25 was binging and depression and partying. And then I had my son, and it was postpartum depression and all sorts of things. So I've always been big, and I always thought that this was just it. And throughout all of those years from starting at the age of 12, I've been dieting. I've been doing fad diets, trying to lose weight, and none of it worked. And the only thing that did was being accountable for my food and exercising. That was it. Training, weight training. The most important piece of advice that I could give to anybody here who is obese, morbidly obese, or overweight, and you're just starting out, make use of your first 6 months. This is the most important time in your journey, because if you are looking to truly transform your body, you have the best chunk of time in the first 6 months, because you get something called beginner gains. So you're going to be able to lose weight and build muscle. So if you really want to make a difference in your physique and your lifestyle, the first 6 months are the most important time to do that. Make use of it. And most people fuck around in their first 6 months. So if you were to hyper focus and like really dig in and go like hard in your first, not like hard restrict, but be mentally in it your first 6 months, you will be absolutely floored at the changes you could make.
Yeah, somebody just posted a question. I think we were going to talk about that anyway, about fat cells. Once they're there, they will always exist. So that's why the more obese you are and the more you diet, the easier it is to gain the weight back. And you were telling me about this really interesting study that you read. So I think that would be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. So there's been lots of studies done on people's set points, genetics, and fat cells. And so I love everything to do with the body and science. Like it's just really exciting to me. So I think that's why I do so much research into this stuff. When you are morbidly obese, like the more weight you gain, you create, or more fat you gain, I should say, you create more fat cells. However, we cannot lose those fat cells themselves. Cells are created. You can't really lose them unless you're physically destroying them or cutting them out, like surgery and things like that. However, you lose the contents of those cells. And there's 2 ways that you lose the contents of those cells: through urine and through sweat. So you empty those cells by burning fat. So your body is utilizing the contents of those cells. So exercising, being a calorie deficit, as long as you are burning more than what you are taking in, you will lose body fat, being in a deficit. However, if you were to just come off of whatever you're doing, most people rebound so bad is because they still have those fat cells, and those fat cells are craving to be filled because you have that set number. And a lot of people rebound is because their body has adapted, or their metabolism is adapted. Not starvation mode isn't a thing. Those cells want to be filled back up. So that's where you get that urge to eat and hunger and cravings. So if you don't reverse diet properly, overcome those cravings and get your body used to the set point you are trying to create, then you're going to rebound. However, if you are weight training, then you are gaining more lean body mass. Lean body mass increases metabolism. So when you start to eat more calories, your body is going to be utilizing those calories to fuel your muscles rather than filling your fat cells. So you have to make sure that your that your weight training at the same time utilizing cardio. That's right. Cardio is a great way to rid your body of the contents of those fat cells, because it's straight energy that your body is going to be burning. Cardiovascular exercise is a really great way to burn calories, just calories. That's all cardio does for you. However, weight training is what you really want to focus on if you want to increase your metabolic rate and be able to eat more calories, so that when you are reverse diet, you don't feel like you're starving, and you can have a lower body fat set point while eating more calories, not feeling as restricted. So that is where the delicate balance of fat loss and muscle gain comes in, and increasing metabolic rate is kind of this dance that you have to play with dieting down, weight training, using cardio, using macro counting. I feel like is one of the best ways to do it, and having the knowledge or the guidance to be able to come out of when you reach your goal or whatnot. So that you are utilizing the most out of your training, the most out of the set time that you've created for yourself to reach this goal, without having rebounds and setbacks, and doing it properly. So it's a lot of, it seems really complicated and overwhelming, but it really isn't that deep. Like it's really not that hard to put into place. It's the mental aspect of things that cause issues with people to fall off track. But you can have a lower body fat set point even though you have lots of body fat cells. Just have to make sure that you are weight training and that you are taking the proper steps, and that you're just not coming off of a plan just out of the blue.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that a lot of people have when they're dieting is that they're not truly honest with themselves in terms of how much they're eating. I think a lot of people underestimate how much they eat, because I get it quite a lot when people come to me and they say they struggle eating and they think they're only eating a certain amount of calories. But, as starvation mode is not a thing. I mean, if you look at people that are anorexic, for example, you will die. You will eventually die from not eating. It's not like your metabolism suddenly adapts and you start gaining fat again. That's not what happens. If you eat too little food, you will keep dropping body weight, or body fat, I should say, and then eventually weight, because it will start eating the muscle. But I think what happens is that a lot of people, they're strict and they might not realize that, for example, Frappuccino, something like that, it has enormous amount of calories in them, super calorically dense, and you don't think about it because it's a liquid. Or people are very good in the week, and then their total weekly calories is still overeating. And if you're somebody that has dieted for a longer period of time, and you do need to, say, be on 1,500 calories a day, you need to be on 1,500 calories a day. So if you don't have it 2 days on the weekend where you're saying eating, say, 2,500, that is too much of a bump, and you're still going to struggle with that weight loss. So, but then there again comes that's again the metabolic adaptation. And if you find that you're stagnating, you either need to increase your drop your calories more, or increase your cardio. And if that's not working, maybe reconsider what you're doing. Try and boost the metabolism, like again by building more muscle, or just eating more and finding a new set point, and then try and diet down again. But stuff like that, it isn't hard. It is hard and it isn't hard. Like, I've done some of it myself, but when I prep and I get stuck in prep, I will always go back to my coach, because he knows my body very well. And I think for anybody that does want to get into fitness or into like, especially want to get into weight training, I would suggest find a personal trainer that understands nutrition and you can work with, because as you say, the second you learn how to lift properly, I literally probably wasted a solid year or two lifting wrong, training in dumb ways, not having proper structure, and it is not a waste of time because I've enjoyed it, obviously. But if you work with somebody that knows what they're doing, the results you are going to get are going to be so quick. And if you can learn from the get-go how to nail your main lifts with proper form, you're being setting PBs pretty much every single week, as opposed to me that every 6 months I have to revise my form and drop back down to nothing and work my way back up, because I've just been doing it, wrong for part of it, which is fine. Like, I don't mind going back and adjusting it. But it's part of the reason why some lifts of mine are just not very good, because I did it wrong for a long period of time. So
yeah. And a lot of people too, like in the beginning, your body, when you go from, okay, let's take Chantal, for example, because I don't want to talk about Amber because she's going through stuff. But let's take Chantal, for example. If Chantal or me at 10 pounds, all of a sudden goes, I'm going to start exercising and eating right, reached out to somebody that, could create the program. I mean, they need more mental stuff. So I'm just talking more about obesity and trying to give you guys like a picture of like what that looks like. If they were to start lifting and lift with cardio, the changes that they would have to make, like just to get results, is very small. They could get away with working out and lifting weights like 3 times a week and doing just mild walking, and it would just boom, boom, boom. It would just come off because their body's metabolism is actually higher. A lot of people think that people who are obese or morbidly obese have slow metabolisms. That's not true. The bigger you are, the more fast your metabolism is going to be, because that is a living tissue. So your body has to supply that tissue with blood, with nutrients, with oxygen, everything. So your metabolism needs to work fast. And that is why obesity is also a dangerous thing, is because your body is working twice as hard to survive. But if they were to make mild changes, they would see results really fast. So in the first 6 months, even if you were lifting wrong, you're still going to make massive progress. But if you really want to make crazy progress, getting somebody, like you said, that knows what they're doing, that can have a unbiased outside view of your eating habits, your nutrition, and your training, and can make those changes for you without the mental side of things, then you are going to make the most amount of change. Like, lots of people have done it on their own and have had crazy transformations. That's not for everybody. Like, for me, I needed help. I needed somebody who wasn't in my head, who wasn't overanalyzing and second guessing every single macro, not stressing about like, oh my God, I ate a piece of bread, like I'm going to get fat now. Like, somebody that can be that outside voice for you to make those adjustments. And all you have to do is follow through. You will see such amazing progress, both mentally and physically. That first 6 months is just so important. Like, even if you lift like shit, just making changes in that first 6 months and being consistent is going to create progress. But most people give up before they see that happen. Most people are like, I'm not seeing changes in the first 2 weeks, it's not working, and then they're on to the next thing. You've got to work through it.
Yeah, and it's even for somebody like me, even though I've dieted a lot, I sometimes do hit plateaus as well, and it could be for a variety of things. The other night I slept bad, I gained a kilo. I literally gained 2.2 pounds overnight from sleeping bad, because of my cortisol being up and like my hormones being unbalanced. So, and it's like, if that happens, you just need to, it's good to have a coach in a situation like that, because I actually did that with my coach. Because if people watch my vlogs, they know this. I've been complaining about my bloody weight for a whole week. I've been dieting and I'm weight loss shifting is going up, and I know rationally why, but at the same time, it's annoying, especially when you work for something. It's one thing if you look back at it and you know that you've been cheating on your diet, then fair enough. Don't complain about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. But I put the work in, so I wanted the results. And yeah, I did end up messaging my coach, like, because he's a good friend of mine anyway, and I just kind of explained what I've been doing, and he was like, to be honest, I don't know. It could be a variety of factors. I would just give it a few days and see what's happening, and then maybe if you won't start sending me pictures, break down your food, because he needs to look at me. Because if I send him pictures of myself from one week to another, he can see if it's water retention or fat, because he just knows my body that well in that sense. And literally the day after I messaged him, I lost 2 kilos. So, but it's difficult because you don't see a result and you get disheartened. But you've got to remember that this happens for everybody. Trust me, it's not easy for me. It's not easy for you. It's not easy for anybody. There's going to be sticking points, and it's just seeing through that and bearing in mind that this is what's going to happen, and it's going to be discouraging, and you're going to get disheartened. But you just got to just have those days, suck them up, and just know that if you push through them, you will get results again. So,
and I think this is like where self-care and like body acceptance and self-love comes in. It's a big part of it. I know somebody asked a question about fat acceptance, and maybe we'll get there. I don't know. But for me, when you're going through like one of these plateaus or these sticking points, it's really important to understand that your body is a machine, but it's also strong. At the same time, it's delicate in certain ways of its chemistry and how it works. There's a variety of factors that affect weight. And it could be lack of sleep, too much salt, maybe you're stressed, maybe you ate something the day before that maybe your body has an intolerance to that you have no idea about. It could be a variety of different things. And that's why when it comes to the scale, I've told my clients, we use it as a tool. It's just a way to measure what is happening in your body. It's a snapshot of that day. It doesn't mean that you're not making progress, because I'm a lot like you when you were talking about how you can go a whole month dieting hard, not lose anything, and then overnight will drop 6 pounds. My body is the exact same way. I would get so frustrated during my dieting phases because I would be my last prep, I'm at the gym twice a day. I'm doing, an hour and a half to 2 hours of cardio. I'm lifting, I'm counting every macro. And this is extreme. I'm not saying this is lifestyle dieting. I was dieting for a show, and I was weighing myself every morning. And then the days where I would feel like absolute crap, I would beat myself up. I would be like, oh, it's not working. You should just quit. Why try? I would lean into more self-care, like a bath, a walk, listening to music, doing something that isn't related, but makes me feel good. The next day, after feeling the absolute worst about myself, I would have a 6 pound drop or a 5 pound drop.
The stress is gone. So, a lot of it is tied into stress as well, especially when you're dieting.
Yes. And patience. Your body is doing so many things that you have no idea of what happens in that balance. So don't beat yourself up because it's not happening in the time frame that you want it to. You have to allow the time for your body to adjust and for you to adjust, because if you're just starting a weight loss journey, you have to learn how to track. You have to learn how to meal prep. You have to learn how to cook. It's a step-by-step, not to say journey, but it really is. You're learning new things and your body is learning new things, and it takes time. So you can't get mad at yourself when it's not happening right away, as frustrating as it is. If you're finding that you're frustrating and you're having those negative thoughts, you just need to step away and do something else. Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't be like, fuck it, I'm going to go eat McDonald's and, binge all night. Just step away and do something else that's going to take your mind off of it. Reduce the stress, because the more you stress about the numbers not moving or the progress that you're not seeing, you're going to raise your cortisol levels, and then you're going to keep screwing yourself over. So do something else that makes you feel good. If you have a coach, reach out to your coach and be like, I feel like nothing is changing. And they're probably going to smack you in the ass and say, smarten up and go do something else. Like that's the accountability, is having somebody who can make changes for you. And then if it continues to happen and you are doing all the right things, then that means something in your plan, whether nutrition or fitness wise, needs to change.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to go by how you look and how you feel, because even in one of my vlogs, I was saying, like, I'm annoyed by my weight, but at the same time, I do feel leaner. And then I was editing my video and I was just surprised by how I was looking, because even though I felt like I was looking leaner, the fact that the scale was throwing me off. So you can't always just like the number on the scale is just a number, and you should be going on how you're feeling. And especially if you're going to start weight training and lose weight, you may as well. It can happen that the scale doesn't budge. The scale might stay the same for a very long period of time, but the fat your body composition will change, because it is possible to build muscle and to gain fat. To build muscle and to lose fat, not gain fat at the same time. I mean, not for me. For me, I'm not going to gain like a kilo of muscle overnight. I have to probably train 6 months to like gain that sort of mass. But when you're new to training, you can probably build a couple of kilos of muscle in a month if you're proper new to it. So that change, it might be very much the same, and then eventually the weight will start coming off, and the fat will start coming off, and the weight will probably just stay roughly the same.
Yeah, like I agree. Like the beginner gains thing is like your body, like muscle weighs more than fat. So you're losing fat. The weight isn't changing on the scale, but that doesn't mean you're not making progress, because your body is utilizing that fat for energy to build muscle. So it's not that fat turns into muscle. A lot of people really get those things confused. What it is your body is burning fat for energy. The more energy that you have, the heavier or the more intense your lift is, the more microfibers tear in your muscles, the more muscle you build. So that's kind of like how that works. And the scale isn't going to reflect that for quite some time. However, most people starting out will see a dramatic drop at first because they're losing excess water retention. And then things will kind of plateau. And this is where people get frustrated because they think, I'm working so hard and nothing is changing. They're only focusing on scale numbers. They're not taking progress pictures. They're not accounting for how their food or how their clothes fit, if they're moving better, if their sleep better. Like all of those things are forms of progress. And the scale, like we said before, is just it's just a measurement of what your body is doing. It's not a measurement of progress. Yes, you can see numbers and a trend go down to reflect that, yes, you are losing weight. Scale, unless you have a really expensive body composition scale, and even then it's hit or miss how accurate that isn't going to be able to tell whether you're losing fat and gaining muscle or you're losing water weight. So if the scale is an issue for you, put it away and take pictures, do progress measurements, how you feel. Are you lifting more? Are your weights increasing, 5 to 7 pounds a week? All of these things matter. So don't give up just because the numbers aren't moving. You got to just keep moving forward. And it's also really important to remember that it's a lifestyle change. A lot of people look at massive fat loss or transformation or a change in their life as a short-term thing. That's another reason why people give up, is because they don't understand that this is forever. You need to be taking care of yourself forever. Exercise, nutrition is forever. It's not just for 20 weeks on a Weight Watchers plan. It's not this short-term thing where you lose your weight and you're like, well, now I've lost it all and I can go back to eating like shit again and not moving and drinking or whatever it is that you were doing before. This is a lifestyle thing that you have to be committed to, and it's never going to look the same. You're going to have to adjust and make changes as you go, as your body changes, but it's a forever thing. And once you accept that, it makes the journey a little bit easier.
And also, once you get used to eating a certain way and living a certain way, it makes you feel good. And like, I'm not sitting here pretending that like every food I eat is always perfectly weighed out, and like I never eat anything bad, because I do eat bad things. I do enjoy it, but I don't really crave it. It's very, very rarely. It's like I have my cheat meals. Sometimes I make it a cheat day. Sometimes I have just a meal. It really depends on how my previous week has been. Sometimes in the week, maybe I'll rather than sticking to my meal plan, I'll do it if it fits my macros, because I'm like, I really want to eat something, but I don't want to overeat. I don't want to go over on my carbs or my calorie. I don't want to go over on my calories, but I kind of want to fit something into my macros just to have that little diet break, even though it isn't really. So, but it's once you get used to doing it, it just becomes your normal, and it's I just to eat. If I go out and I'm eating out all day long and I can't eat healthy food, it makes me feel awful. So it's like you do notice the difference between fueling yourself with proper nutrition. I know that if it fits your macros, there is, in terms of like weight loss, there is like calories and calorie, which is true. But you do also have to bear in mind that the quality of the calories or the nutritional values. So I don't think if a fit your macros is bad, by the way. I think it gets a bad rep because some people just do it stupidly and people just promote unhealthy eating habits on it. And it's like, if a fit your macros isn't about eating McDonald's and donuts all day long, it's about having a McDonald's on occasionally and fitting that into your calories without ruining your progress. But you should want to eat healthy food because that's going to give you more progress and is going to make you feel better also.
Yeah, no, agree. Like, I don't think that there is like good food and bad food. There's no good calories and bad well, I mean, there's good quality
it's
of
healthy
calories.
And unhealthy, isn't it, I
Healthy,
suppose?
right?
Yeah.
It's food, all food isn't good or bad. There's a time and a place for each of them. And we have to make sure that like 90% of the time we are getting whole-based, like healthy, high quality food. And then we can enjoy those things like without feeling guilty, and the things that kind of the naughtier foods that we feel like maybe a little bit less healthy. Like, for example, Fridays for me are my refeed days. Sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling, I will calculate a higher macro day. Some days I will just have a dessert and a meal that I really want. So it depends on the day and how I'm feeling. If I feel that I'm particularly burnt out from training all week and I need a good bump, I will change my macros to be higher throughout the whole day. I'm still eating the same high quality foods, just in larger portions. So my carbs are going to go up a bit. My fats are going to go up a bit. My protein might come down a little bit. If I feel like I'm in a pretty good place, but maybe I have a craving for something, then I'm going to, have it. So one of the things that I love to eat is like pizza. I will go to the grocery store and I will buy a thin crust, lower carb pizza because I want pizza. And if I want ice cream, I will buy a single serving. That way I don't have leftovers. It's not in the house. I can track the pizza. So if I feel like it, or sometimes I go out to a restaurant and I just have a burger and fries and then just leave it there. So it depends on the situation and how I'm feeling that day. But I don't look at it like, oh my gosh, I ate a burger. I destroyed my whole week. A lot of people will continue that bad eating into the weekend. So they'll have one thing and then it will just continue. And that's where a lot of people you can totally destroy a week's worth of progress in a day. If you were eating like garbage all day, you can easily overconsume and just blow your calories for the week out of the water if you're not careful. So I do think that we should be able to enjoy and have something from time to time that kind of is like, oh, that was really good. I feel really good that I had that, rather than feeling guilty about it if you're eating it all the time. So there's a time and place for that, but every single day is not that time and place. And so I feel like a lot of people struggle to give that up as well, is like, yeah, really shitty food tastes great, but it makes you feel like shit. So for example, on Friday, I had just a small Dairy Queen cone, like not
I've never had Dairy Queen. Is it good? And like, everybody's always banging on about Dairy Queen. Why is it just ice cream?
I like it. I like ice cream.
Or is it like gelato?
No, I actually prefer gelato and frozen yogurt, but right now our frozen yogurt place doesn't open till the summer. So Dairy Queen is kind of like the only place to get stuff until like all of the boutique ice cream shops open. But it's good. I like it. Like, you can get like ingredients in there. I tend to keep things pretty chill and just get an ice cream cone because I just want the ice cream. I don't need all the extras. But because I haven't been eating those things, it made my stomach so upset, like so upset. And a lot of the times, like I was saying, if I make pizza, I'll make it at home or I'll go and buy a frozen one. And that way I can kind of see what I'm taking in. So there's ways to eat bad in a healthy way, I guess, if you want to.
Well, that's, I mean, getting a frozen pizza, I did it over the weekend because I kind of wanted to have a cheat meal, but I wasn't really in the mood for a big cheat. And getting a frozen pizza, or I don't know, like from the fresh aisle or whatever, you're looking at maybe like 1,200 calories, 1,500 calories for a pizza, as opposed to 2,500 to 3,000 that you would get from a takeout. So you're halving your calories. Is it the same? Not quite. I mean, you always have like a soggy bottom and stuff, but I can survive a soggy bottom if it's going to halve my calories. So, and it's like burgers. You want burgers? You can make your own burgers. Buy lean mince, lean steak mince. Yeah. It's going to be a lot better for you than whatever meat is in like other burgers. So
yeah, and I prefer like a higher quality cheat meal rather than being like, oh, I'm going to go to McDonald's, which is going to make you feel empty in like an hour and a half. Or,
yeah, like
you know,
a 3-course dinner. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm all
yeah.
for
Like
that. I can't wait to go back to restaurants. Oh, not been out for dinner forever, it feels like.
we went for the first time on Friday. And
Did you?
I did. And I had chicken tacos and a
Was it
side
good?
salad. It was so good. It was, and they were really good about the changes that they made. Like they were all wearing masks and gloves and visors, and all the tables were split apart, and it was really neat how they did it. But I went out and I looked at the menu, and I just decided, like, what do I feel like having? What do I kind of crave right now? And what is going to make me feel satiated? Like, feels that, like, you know, that feeling you get when you just want to eat out. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but and I sat down and looked at the menu, and I was like, I could totally go for some chicken tacos. Like, I asked them to make them non-breaded, just to grill them. So, and they were amazing, and it wouldn't, I would take that over McDonald's any day.
But those are little changes you can make. So whenever I try not to eat out at all when I'm in prep, unless it is a cheat meal, but sometimes it is inevitable, right? And you can go to most places, and you know, you can easily switch things out. You can eat like a grilled steak with a side salad, and you're looking at what, like a 300-400 calorie meal, if that. Ask for your sauces separately. Ask to not have put dressing on your salads. You know, if it has fries, ask for boiled potatoes if you're having carbs in your diet. So you can eat out and make healthy changes. But I think, I don't know, you just have to think about these things. Like you say, like change the breaded chicken out for your grilled chicken. But that's a massive decrease in calories, you know. So it's just being mindful. Like, you can make very small changes, still enjoy your life and be healthy. And I'm not saying, like you said, like, of course, if you sometimes really want to eat something bad, then do. It's just, if you're somebody that likes to go out for dinner all the time and that's not something you're willing to give up, then consider changes like that. You know, what meals can you alter slightly? And at the end of the day, you're a paying customer. So most restaurants, they're not fussy about it. You know, they don't mind switching things around, not in my experience anyway. So.
Yeah. And when it comes to, like, with eating out, like you're saying, like, just those small changes. And one of the things that I discovered for myself and that I share with my clients is you should never make decisions about food or your exercise while you're emotional. So a lot of the times, if people, you know, if you're going to eat out, know what you're going to have going into it. Or
I always look at the menus. I look at the menu like 3 days before I even go there. And then you see the people, and they take like an hour to read the menu, and I'm just like, how can you not know what you want to eat already?
Know,
come on now.
I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to have before I get there. So, like, when we went to this restaurant, I said, I'm either going to have the chicken tacos, or I'm going to have the salad wraps, or I'm going to have a burger. Those are my 3 options that I'm giving myself, and I will decide when I get there, depending on how I feel. So this was like my first week of like 5 days in a row of like bomb ass training, cardio on point, food on point. And when I sat down at the dinner table on Friday, I asked myself, am I willing to throw it away for, not that a burger and fries would have killed my progress, but I wouldn't have felt good about it because I know how hard I worked all week. To me, that burger and fries wasn't like yeah, girl, you worked hard, you deserved it. For me, it was like, I do want to eat out and have something tasty, but I'm not willing to sacrifice the work that I did for an hour of pleasure. So it's a decision you make. Like, there are times where, you're like, I want a burger and fries. I've been good or I've not been good, but I've been on track and consistent for a whole month. Totally awesome. I'm going to go have a burger and fries. It's my birthday, right? Like something like that. But if you're going to eat out like every week, like I do, or order in, I'm deciding ahead of time. I know what I'm going to be having. It's calculated just because I'm tracking right now and I'm trying to be on point. But I know what I'm going to have so that I feel excited, but I also feel like that meal is working for me. Like, it's a complete change in mindset. Like before, when I was obese, it was like, how much can I eat in this hour? How much food can I get down? Because tomorrow I'm starting a diet, right? Things like that. So it's a big change. Like you can make so many changes and still eat out and enjoy food. I could have a donut every day if I really wanted to, if I worked it into my macros. Am I going to feel good? No. Is it going to be beneficial for me? No. It's only satisfying your craving. Like, trust me, I think about donuts every day, but I don't have them.
Also, it doesn't satisfy you, especially when you're dieting and you're on less calories than what you normally are. It's nice to have the choice to have that donut, but the reality is that however many grams of carbohydrates and fat that go into that donut, you can have a whole ass meal for that. And it's like, if I'm hungry, I'd rather eat food and a large quantity of food than have like a little donut that 2 seconds later I'm hungry from again.
And I was craving more.
Yeah, so I was thinking, shall we ask questions or get people to ask questions for 15 minutes? Because I just saw that Eva was hungry.
Oh, I saw that. He was like, I'm hungry. We're talking about
no. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions. And then we can do that for about 15 minutes or so. And if not, we'll just end it. But I'll see if anybody's got questions.
Question up here, if you're okay with me answering.
Yeah, go
on. Do you mind if I just give my opinion on the fat acceptance thing?
No, because of course not. Go ahead.
That popped up. Okay. I'm going to keep it really short just because, So the fat acceptance thing is, for those of you that may not know, I was a boudoir empowerment photographer for about 10 years. So I worked with women closely on body image and self-love. However, I used to be like one of the believers in the fat acceptance movement at the beginning of that time, because I felt like I was stuck in my body and I just had to kind of accept where I was. So I was like all about the Tess holiday. I was all about, like just be happy who you are and that type of thing, until that situation happened with my son. And I realized that being obese is not healthy. And while you can make healthy changes and be obese, you cannot be healthy at every size. And just accepting, like, you have to accept who you are as a person. Your meat suit, your body is not what makes or breaks who you are. Meat suit. You
sounds so gross, doesn't it?
I know. But I don't know why I just it. You have to accept who you are. Yeah, you have to accept who you are, like at your core. And your outside reflects how you feel inside. So if there are women who are morbidly obese and confident and love their bodies, and that's really great for them. And I'm not saying you shouldn't love yourself or shouldn't accept yourself. I have a problem with when this movement starts saying that being obese is unhealthy, when the science clearly shows that it's not, and when they don't have any sort of science-based evidence other than a few crack therapists and dietitians that stand behind them and say, oh, you can do this and that. While they may not have health problems at the time, it will happen. It happened to me. And so I will never say that it's okay to be obese, that it's healthy to be obese. It's okay as a person if you are obese, love yourself, but I think you should work towards making healthier changes. And making healthy changes and treating yourself the best is the ultimate form of self-love. When you put so much effort into taking care of your body, the only one that you get and the only one you will ever get, then that is the highest form of self-love and acceptance.
Yeah.
So leave it there.
There was a question around high intensity training and how it can be bad for the joints and for the central nervous system. So I think I do sometimes high intensity training when I'm in prep. It's something that I do. But I think there is a misconception. A lot of people think they do high intensity training, but they do interval training. If somebody says they're doing high intensity training and they're doing like 30 seconds off, 30 seconds off, that's not high intensity training. So whenever I do it, I will mostly do it on an exercise bike. So that is probably less impacting on the joints anyway. I don't run. I'm not really a runner. I've kind of tried it. I'm not made for running. I guess you can do high intensity training with like kettlebells and all of that. But the way I do it, there is obviously many different ways of doing it. The way I do it is that I will be on an exercise bike, like a spinning bike or something like that. I will pedal at a certain level of RPM. And then for 30 seconds, every third or fourth minute, I will put up the resistance and I will go flat out to the point where I'm almost vomiting. And this is that's kind of how you should do it. You need several minutes, up to like 3, 4, 5 minutes to recover before you go for a full blast again. That is true high intensity training. Anything else is kind of intervals. The dangers, I think, for the central nervous system. So I guess it becomes pointless from what I understand. If you do it too much, it becomes counterproductive because, again, the body just adapts to it. So you should only do it 3 times a week. And it should really be in conjunction with either interval or steady state cardio. And from what I understand in terms of like fat loss, I mean, like anything that's, what do you mean for the joints? Or like, do you reckon they mean like running and stuff with it, or more like kettlebells and stuff? Or
well, it depends if we're talking specifically about fat loss. I don't think that high intensity interval training is the way to go, just because your body, when it comes to cardio, you reach a certain threshold and then it's not about cardio anymore. It's about endurance and conditioning. So it's a little bit different. Like high intensity training is more about endurance because it's hitting your system in a different way than if you were to do like a lower intensity steady state, where you're getting like just the same constant stream of output. So people that are doing high intensity training is usually for people that are going to be running marathons, or they're doing something really intense where they need their body to be able to put out that type of energy. So the more that you train that, the more your body adapts to it, right? And if you're trying to one up that to lose weight, you have to get really extreme with it. And that's where injuries and stuff like that can happen. So if you like doing true hit, like you were explaining, then do it. If it gives you an endorphin rush and you enjoy it and you love it, absolutely do it. I just don't think it's the best for fat loss, especially if we're talking about overweight or morbidly obese people, because you could really hurt yourself if you don't know what you're doing or if you're not doing it properly.
Yeah.
You may not get the results that you want after a certain amount of time. Like it might work really great at first because your body's not used to outputting that amount of calories, but eventually it's going to adapt and it's going to wear off. And I just don't think it's the best way to go about it. But, people do see like crazy results with CrossFit, for example, because CrossFit does have implements of true hit, like when they're on the assault bike and things like that, and they're doing Murphs, right? People do high intensity interval training for CrossFit competitions because that is the type of endurance that you need. I personally think that if you want something that's a little bit higher intensity, just do intervals. So for example, in the morning when I'm doing my post-weight cardio, I will do intervals on the treadmill. I'm not running really fast. I'm not going all out, but I will jog at like 6.5 on an incline of 3 for a minute, bring my speed down, walk for a minute, bring it up, because that does get your body revved up. And then at the very last 5 to 10 minutes, I really increase the intensity. So maybe I'm at a steeper incline, or I kick up my speed a little bit and, maybe I go at 8.0 and run for 30 seconds for the last 5 minutes, just to like push my body into burning more fat, because at the end of your cardio session after weight training, you're the most depleted in glycogen. And this is the best time for your body to really utilize fat cells to fuel the intensity of your exercise at the end of your cardio session. So that's how I do it. Sometimes I will do
thanks, Ismail.
I'll do something on the stair mill, or I will do something on like a recumbent bike or something like that. So that's just what I prefer to do. And some days I will put it on an incline of 6 and I will walk at like a 3.0 speed, and I will do that for a half an hour, and I'm sweating and it's just walking. So depends on the person, but I think just, I just don't think HIIT's the best for weight loss personally.
Yeah. And obviously, it's definitely not appropriate for people that are obese. When you're obese, it's a whole different way of training. You have to be very careful. Somebody was asking about cardio and it becoming counterproductive. It really depends on your body type. So I am somebody that I can do cardio all year round in any type of season, and I still have body fat. I would say I would not recommend cardio for hard gainers. If your metabolism, if you're just naturally so skinny that if you don't eat for a day, you lose 3 pounds, and you're just pretty much force feeding, because trust me, people are naturally really skinny and they struggle gaining muscle.
Yeah.
That is a real struggle some people have as well. And if you're pretty much having to force feed an extraordinary amount of calories just to make any form of gains, I would not recommend any cardio, because it becomes counterproductive. And it's like, yeah, if you want to do cardio, great, but that just means that you're going to have to eat an extra 500 calories or something like that.
Yeah. Because like we were saying before, you have to remember, like, your body is adapting. So if you're constantly doing cardio every single day, your body's going to go, well, now I'm just used to burning this many calories. It gets really efficient at utilizing the calories that you're taking in. So in order to continue that fat loss, you have to increase the amount of calories you're burning through cardio. And then this is where, like, a lot of people make mistakes in bodybuilding, is they get their cardio too high, to an unrealistic point, where, like, how much
2-3 hours a day
can you do, right? So that's where it's, like, really important when you're just starting out, is to just start with, like, 15 minutes, even a half an hour. Like, that's all I did in the beginning, I think, was 15-20 minutes was post weights. And eventually I had to, like, kick it up every week, just because your body is going to get used to that amount of calories that you're burning. So this is where the calories in versus calories out happens, is, yeah, you are in a calorie deficit, but your body is going to adapt to that calorie. So you have to keep tricking your body into burning more calories, whether that's nutritionally or through exercise, you're increasing your deficit. So don't just start right off the bat of doing, like, an hour of cardio. If you only have an hour to work out, so for example, if somebody is like, I'm new, I maybe not be ready for weight training, I just want to start exercising. If you were to take an hour walk, or if you're morbidly obese, don't get on a treadmill, get on a bike.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the less impact on your knees, and it's the safer way to go about cardio, because we don't need anybody tripping on the stairs or a treadmill. Even an elliptical can be iffy. So my suggestion is, if you're morbidly obese, if you're 300 to 400, 500 pounds, get on a stationary bike, and just pedal, even at a slow pace, for half an hour, 15 minutes. And your body is going to be so shocked. If you have to make the choice between weight training and cardio in the beginning, and that's all you have to work with, cardio, because cardio will burn calories. Weight training does burn calories, but when you're morbidly obese, the concern is getting the weight off in a safe way. So you may not be in a place where your mobility is good enough to do weight training yet. So any form of exercise is going to be helpful. Cardio burns calories. Weight training also burns calories, but it hits your body in a different way. Yeah. Sorry if I'm not making sense on that. My brain's like, science.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I saw a question earlier, which I think will be the last one, in terms of training splits. So I think realistically, if you want to see results from weight training, you probably have to train at least 3 times a week, minimal. I would recommend anywhere between 3 to 5 times a week, maybe 6, but mostly 5 times. It depends really on what your goal is. So what I do, because I train mostly women, and women want to have nice booties, right, for the most part. So I normally do 2 different leg days, because I find legs are half of your body anyway. So training your legs once a week, it doesn't really make sense to me, because it is literally half of your body. So I'll have a day where I'll focus on the front of the legs and the back of the legs, even though they're quite hard to isolate. It's just there is more of a focus on it. You're looking mostly at large compound exercises, but one day will be, for example, more squat focused, and the other one might be more, I don't know, like sumo deadlift focused or something like that, depending on who they are and like what their goals are and where they are within their training. And I change it around, but I quite like doing a push-pull split. So I'll either do 2 twice a week legs with a push and a pull. And then normally what I'll do is, because I really like training my chest and I really like training my back, those will be the only exercises that I'll do in the push and pull. So it's kind of like a back day and chest day, really. And then what I'll do is I'll have a day where I'll do my arms and my rear delts. And it's mostly my rear delts, and I'll just throw in an exercise for my biceps and my triceps, because like they're quite developed, so I don't need to. But for bodybuilding, bodybuilding training is a bit different from normal training, because what you're doing is in your off season, you're working to bring up your lagging body parts. So my hamstrings and my rear delts are weak on me in terms of like development. So when I have a gym, I'll train them twice a week to bring them up so that they become proportionate to the rest of my body. But otherwise, I would say like 3 to 5. I would say anywhere 3 to 5 days, and just make sure you train everything, hit your whole body.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one thing that I always ask my clients is like, there's a difference between what you want to do and what you realistically can do. So a lot of the times when people are like, I'm going to start training, I'm going to start going to the gym, they are like, I'm going to hit it 5 days a week. Well, 5 days might not be realistic for that person's lifestyle. So, and if they struggle with consistency, throwing somebody into 5 days a week right away is going to be too stressful for them because they haven't learned the habit of just getting used to going. So it depends really on the situation, your goals, what your lifestyle is like, and how much you can realistically handle at this time. But for the basis of a beginner, most people can realistically handle 3 days a week. And I kind of agree, like how I usually set my clients up, not me, I train 6 times a week, 5 to 6 times a week. So I'm training like chest and shoulders and triceps twice a week. I'm training my back twice a week and my biceps, and I'm training my legs twice a week. So because I frequency training, I'm trying to build muscle. I want hypertrophy right now. I'm trying to also cut down weight, but keep my lean muscle mass. So there's the science like connected there. But for just beginners, like push-pull is a really great way to go about it. Like if you're training back, you can train your biceps because those are muscles that work together in that movement. Same thing with leg days, depending on the client, depending on myself. Sometimes I will do like one compound movement and the rest of it is isolation exercises. So maybe I'll do some squats and then the rest of my workout I'm doing step ups or split squats, or I'm working on the leg extension machine or hamstrings. And then the next day or the next time I train, maybe I'm doing 2 or 3 compound lifts. Usually my deadlifts happen on my back days instead of leg days because I like to lift heavy. And I find that if I do deadlifts on a leg day, my legs are pretty spent. So I like to split it up. So it depends on the person's schedule, and it depends really like how much they can commit to it. So sometimes it will be like Monday, chest, shoulders, triceps. Wednesday, we got back, biceps, abs. Friday, we've got compound movement with some leg isolation exercises. So it depends. It's personal preference. Honestly, sorry, that was very long.
And it's also it's fine. And it's one of those things you have to switch up. If you once you get into training, switch your routine up all the time, because if you don't, you'll stagnate and you won't make progress. But I think what we should do is let's end it here, guys. If you have questions, comment down below, and we can do another one of these at some point. And I'll just come back to this live. I'll pick up good questions, and then we can just discuss them in future reference. I know we haven't really addressed the chat, but you know, it's not really that sort of live stream, is it?
We can do a whole Q&A live stream.
Yeah, maybe we can do that. Like the video if you want us to do that next. And then we can definitely do that again. That might be better actually, rather than just having a topic. Just do a Q&A live stream and go from there. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to say, but thanks to everybody that came. Like, we weren't alone in the end, even though we thought we were. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and it's hopefully you'll spend a day with your family, and it will be very nice for you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It was fun, and can't wait to do it again.
All right. Speak to you soon, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.